Welcome to the weekly Exec Connect with your executive officer. Who are we? Dream Team. We are the Howard and the Central Zone, and with our leadership, we make students' dreams come true. Dream Team. By week 3, we are beginning to move from beyond the launch of school into the work of continuous improvement. We have established routines, we're visiting classrooms, and now we're beginning to gather the data. Now comes the fun and the important part. Starts with the question: what are we going to do with what we know? This week, our focus is on the CIP goals, the intentional data analysis, and the leadership moves that create measurable, long-lasting systemic impact. Your big rocks should focus on how well do you really know your goals? How well do you know your students? And don't forget, your CIP should not sit on the shelf. It should be a roadmap for your leadership. This week, work on the CIP goals from the documents that we provided, and also ensure that you and your leadership team works on this, and then ask 3 robust questions. Where are we going? What does our current data tell us? And how does the leadership move ensure that we get started now? Look at grade level data. Look at content area data. Look at classrooms. Look at student subgroups. Ask that question: who is succeeding in our current system? Now we're 3 weeks in, who is succeeding? And who isn't yet experiencing the same level of success? What do we need to do? What adjustments do we need to make? And this is where intentional leadership begins. The Dream Team continue to dare to dream and turn your CIP into an improvement cycle. So again, start with the data. Go beneath the aggregate data. Examine the subgroup performance data. Really look deep into formative assessments. Really look deep and find out the trends of attendance. Go back and find out, were these students having attendance problems before? Look at some of the student work samples. Think about the walkthrough evidence. We start to collect that. What does it look like? And what does our early indicators look at? And don't admire the data. Interrogate it. Actions. What strategic action will take place right now based on what we've learned? Perhaps it's strengthening the PLC. Perhaps it's reallocating an interventionist. Perhaps it's adjusting the small group. Perhaps it's coaching a teacher to ensure they are focused. And then here come the results. What specifically should improve because of those actions? If we cannot describe what's expected result, the action probably isn't strategic enough. And then finally, the evidence. What evidence will tell us that the strategy is working? Determine this information before you start the implementation. Don't forget, as we push through, we got to make sure that the data requires a push. We want to make sure to align those resources to make sure that the greatest resources are aligned against the greatest needs. And the rigorous approaches that the teachers do not just respond to learning gaps by simply giving students more work. They give students better instruction. And then the committed delivery. Once your team determines the strategy, stay with it long enough to know whether it worked or did not work. One of the strongest lessons from the instructional leadership research is that principals have greater impact when they are actively involved in planning, actively involved in coordinating, in evaluating teachers and evaluating learning, rather than remaining distant from instruction. So this week, make sure that you turn what we had talked about into a problem of practice. Look at your problem of practice, and you want to see it, act on it, and return to it. Run it through that process. List the data that you've seen or collected so far, and the final step matters. With a follow-up, then now you're starting to create a leadership system. This week, our leadership spotlight is on Dr. Fuller and maximizing the minutes. This week's leadership spotlight goes to Dr. Fuller for intentionally streamlining transitions for the 3rd and 4th grade students. At first glance, improving transition time may seem like a small operational move, but think about the instructional impact. Fewer minutes transitioning means more minutes what? Learning. That's strategic leadership. Identifying something within the leader's control, improving the system, and returning valuable instructional time to teachers and to students. Excellent work, and kudos to you, Dr. Fuller. Here's your fun leadership fact. A 10-minute unnecessary meeting with 12 people doesn't cost your organization 10 minutes. It costs 120 minutes of collective leadership time. So protect your time so you can spend it where it matters most, supporting, teaching, and learning. The leadership quote of the week, it comes from Richard Elmore. And the quote says, "The task of leadership is to create the conditions in which people are willing to have their practice scrutinized." The question isn't who's to blame. The question is, what does the evidence require us to do next? And here's your weekly Dream Leadership Nugget. It centers around A, align vision and strategy. Alignment means your calendars, your conversations, your resources, your actions tell the same story as your goals. So again, as you look at that CIP, as you get those goals together, as you put that data down, then look at your calendar and make sure that it aligns. For example, look at your calendar from the last 2 weeks. Do they match? If literacy is your greatest priority, then we should see leadership on your calendar. If subgroup gap, if that data is a priority, then we should see targeted actions addressing that gap. If tier 1 instruction is a priority, then we should see you in the classroom and also in PLCs. Your calendar should provide evidence of your priorities. A dream becomes a reality when a team dares to develop others, refine instructional practice, engage stakeholders, align vision and strategy, and model excellence. Together we lead. Together we rise. Let's have an incredible Week 3 Dream Team, and let's continue to make students' dreams come true. Have a great week.